Daryl Morey, Nick Nurse, thank you for sitting down on an exciting day in Sixers land. Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, new contract. Take us back, Daryl, you first, logistically. When do you start putting up the dominoes so that they can fall the way they did this summer?
Well, I think it started the prior year's off season, around towards as we're getting into free agency. That James Harden opted in, and at that point asked for a trade. And I think one of the things we try to do is have the team be in a stable position no matter sort of what decisions are made by players. And at that point, when we took a step back and said, okay, if we do trade James, what is the right plan? And it was to go the route that we've gone that led to getting Paul and this offseason.
And Coach, what was it like for you to observe the way that Daryl and his team were putting things together and then have the payout that you had this summer?
Well, I think that give them a lot of credit, first of all. Like, I think all things that, end up in a successful situation start with a plan, but then you got to execute that plan. And arguably you could say we hit all the parts of the plan we were trying to hit this summer, those guys and their signings and everybody kind of chipping in where they needed to chip in to get all these little things done. Obviously Paul's the big signing, but I don't underestimate any of them, from Kyle to Kelly to Andre to Eric to Jeff Doughton to Ricky to all this stuff. Whatever it ends up being in the end is they're all important pieces that we needed. Caleb Martin in there too, I forgot about him. So it's great. I think that a lot of times you got to go to plan A, B, C, D, and all the way down, because as soon as something kind of gets veered off one direction. But they were ready. We were all on the same page and on the same team trying to make it all happen, and we did a good job.
I'm glad you guys are sitting down together, because for those who don't know, this is not the first time that you two have shared a workplace. Can you take us back to the first time you worked with Coach Nurse and maybe the first impressions you had of him as a young coach?
Yeah, I thought we were very fortunate. We just, Chris Finch was moving on from our G League team. And Chris couldn't have said better things about Nick. We already knew Nick was a fierce competitor because he was a rival team at the time. And Chris and Nick knew each other well. So it was a pretty quick interview process. We did talk to Nick and a few others. And it really felt right. I think Coach Nurse and I talk a lot about, a little bit in a funny way, that, over his career, he's been sort of labeled, oh, he's the defense guy, or he's the offense guy. and the reality is he's just a great coach and a great partner. And I do want to talk, he alluded to it, but both Coach Nurse and his staff have been integral in helping us, especially with the NBA players, when we're looking at all the different free agents we had to be ready for. We leaned on him and his staff and their networks, and they also watch video for us, so we could be ready for all the different possibilities this offseason.
Coach, what was it like working for Daryl the first time in Rio Grande Valley?
It was good. It was good. Very, very fun, very successful. Listen, it was not that easy for me to want to go there. I was in my home state of Iowa, where we started that franchise. We just finished our 4th year there, but in kind of my philosophy at the time was I was just trying to grow, and all the interesting stuff they were doing in Houston or with their minor league team interests me, right? I just wanted to go learn some of the stuff they were doing and be a part of it. And he said it was a quick interview process. By his standards, it was.
So I'm assuming it was pretty thorough. Yeah.
It's thorough. I seem to remember being up in Europe somewhere in the middle of the night for a long time, finishing that off. But anyway, the biggest thing that I was interested in is they kind of had a clear idea, again, a plan of what they were doing with the D League team at the time. And one of the things was he wanted to use it as a laboratory to test a bunch of things. And I was like, man, that's right up my alley, because I got a whole bunch of ideas in here that I need a place to get tested where you're not going to get super criticized if they don't work. And that was really intriguing part of bringing me there.
And we not only tested him like with the stuff he mentioned on the court, but one of the years we really tested him with the players we sent him. So that's an inside joke. So.
I hope to someday be a part of it.
It made me a better coach, that's for sure.
We were like, can we break him? What are the limits of what we could do?
Well, listen, not going to break him is the roster that you've assembled this offseason.
I think we tried to break Coach Nurse last year with all our injuries. I really thought at one point.
And he found ways to win nonetheless.
We hung in there. We hung in there.
Found ways. Yeah. Well, we were really testing the limits each day. He was like, "Do I have 6 guys? Do I have 7 guys tonight?" So, actually, yeah. Again, shout out to Coach for really getting us through some of the really tough times last year. People don't remember we had like 3, 4, 5 of our key rotation guys out for significant periods last year.
And credit though to Coach Nurse for maintaining the same spirit of the system, regardless of who was available. So now as we turn the page to a season where a very different cast of characters are going to be available, including Paul George, 3 All-Stars, Kelly Oubre Jr., you mentioned all the people that are going to contribute. What excites you about the blank slate that this roster is providing you now?
Well, I think there's a couple things. One is I really do like that we got a good number of guys back, as well. Like I think that the guys we have back are certainly guys that we love and guys that are all in. You know what I mean? They're coachable. They're in the system a little bit already. They will help these new guys, give them the cheat sheet, so to speak, and get things done sooner. And then I just, I just love, I think, the possibilities, right? I'm not throwing myself in any box or we got to do this. I just want to kind of see what they're capable of. I think I got some ideas of things that we can try, and then we'll just mold it as we go. And that's what I love. The best laid plans that I have going into training camp will evolve, and I think we'll sit back and make those adjustments as we go.
It was a big part of why Paul wanted to be here. I'll let him address it, but I know one thing he really liked was he could be part of like sort of a new situation. He would ask during the process, like, what is the team like? And I was like, that's the exciting thing. Like this group of Joel, Paul, and Tyrese as sort of the 3 cornerstones will be able, along with some great teammates, will be able to make something new and exciting here. And so I really like that. And I also really like that we were able to add quite a few guys who have had very deep playoff runs or championship experience. I think that will go a long way as well.
Daryl, you've talked about sort of like assembling a roster, right? And then handing it over to Coach and his staff. What does that handover feel like as you put so much work into creating this baby almost, right? And then give it away to someone else?
In terms of like handing it over to Coach Nurse, it's not really the way I think about it. I just like our off season is a dialogue between myself and Nick and his coaching staff, which does a great job. I think that dialogue just continues. We don't really see the team ever as like, and I've talked about this in prior seasons, we don't ever see it as a final product. As things evolve, Coach is going to see areas that we might need to shore up. We have draft capital to go add players to this team if we might have injuries. Like there's a whole dynamic that will play out during the season where we're going to continue to be partners. We're probably going to leave an open roster spot so that we can add someone during the season. So to me, it's a continuous dialogue of trying to steal it from Tyrese, try to get 1% better every day. And if Coach sees a need from a roster perspective, we'll be, sort of next to him that whole time trying to find the right players.
Coach, by your estimation, what makes a good chief executive for a basketball team?
Well, I think that a couple things Daryl's already touched on is the partnership, I think, is the main thing. I just think that let's start with fun. I don't think it's any fun when they're over there saying we've given you a great team and you're over here saying no you haven't and you're just doing this all the time. I think we're both I don't know what the word is, realistic enough that I think he's doing his best, and I'm doing my best too, and we kind of sit there and good-naturedly most of the time but honestly all the time where we say, he'll admit the team's not good enough. I'll admit I didn't coach good enough or whatever it is. And I think what the big thing is, we're on the same page. We all got the same goals. We desperately want to win, right? And we're going to work really, really hard. Like there's no limits on our work ethic or what we're going to put into it to try and get it done.
Same question for you. What makes a great head coach?
Yeah, I think obviously it's hard for us to answer because I think Nick embodies the answer. So I guess I'll have to call it out. I think I'd really call out his leadership, his creativity, and his flexibility, because just like we talked about Tyrese having to have a lot of faith in the plan, the coaches had to have maybe even more faith in the plan, because I would say I have not been a head coach. I'd make a terrible head coach. But I do know that when you're looking at your roster in the offseason and there's one player signed, we literally had one player, Joel Embiid, who was on the roster. Tyrese, we had to re-sign even. Obviously, we felt very good we were going to get that done. But to go into an offseason with one player and we're trying to be a great team, that takes a lot of faith. And so I think flexibility, leadership, and creativity, over the years, I think Nick has really embodied like being ahead of all the trends in the league. So if you want to know how the league is going to be playing, usually in 4 years, you usually look at Nick's teams now. That the league sort of has copied him for all the past few years.
Well, listen, from one player on the roster to the entire roster now almost, on behalf of Sixers fans, people are really excited about this one. So we're excited to see what you guys do in the weeks ahead, in the months ahead. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thanks, Lauren.